Welcome back to the art room. Mrs. Larrabee here. This week we get to do a fun project with Cactus inspired by the artist Katie Vernon. Let me tell you about your supplies really quick. You're going to need your crayons and a pencil. You're going to need glue and scissors. You're going to need 2 sheets of paper. Here's a couple of suggestions for paper. Your texture sheet from last week would be perfect. So if you have one of these, grab this out of your portfolio. And then some other type of paper that's a little different than this. So you don't want to use both your texture sheets. Choose one, and then you could put it with a plain sheet of white paper. Or you could use a piece of the paper from a paper bag. This is a different color. If you have any construction paper works great for this project. You could grab a piece of that. So go ahead and choose 2 sheets of paper, crayons, pencils, scissors, and glue, and let's get started. All right, this week our lesson is inspired by the artist and illustrator Katie Vernon. Miss Vernon is from the Midwest, kind of the middle of the United States. She lives now in Arizona, which is close to us. Miss Vernon was first known, or I first knew her, for the series of cactus paintings that she made. She used shape and very simple colors and a little bit of texture to make these really neat works of art. In fact, Miss Vernon's illustrations are so popular, she's been featured in the Washington Post, which is a newspaper. She has her artwork on things that you might find from your home, like this wall hanging. You can find it at IKEA and Anthropology. Those are a few stores that she works with. Miss Vernon has a series of greeting cards. You can find them at Hallmark and some of those higher-end card stores. I feel like I've seen work like hers, maybe at Target on cards, but I don't know if it's actually her artwork or not. And I wanted to show you this last bit because Miss Vernon does do a lot with cactus, but that's not all she does. She paints some of these beautiful paintings. These paintings are very, very large and so colorful. And I found a sculpture that she made, and I thought this was so neat because we've been talking about sculpture the last few weeks. A cactus sculpture. That's just a few things by the artist, Mrs. Vernon. All right, so today we're going to draw inspiration specifically from her cactus works of art. And for a moment, let's look at a picture of some real cactus. Let's do some observing. Here's a row of potted cactus. Ours are going to be in pots kind of like these as well. I want you to look at the different shapes that you see. I see lots of kind of circles, longer ovals. Some are large, some are smaller. In fact, I could even say, some of them look large, medium, and small. You kind of have all 3 of those sizes on one cactus. I can see the rows of the prickly spines on the cactus. That's making lines or patterns across the cactus and also adding some texture, for sure, a pokey texture. All right, so as you look at this, keep in mind some of these shapes because we're going to draw some of those shapes. Let's go ahead. I'm going to move these out of the way. Notice I have different shapes on my cactus as well. Let's take our sheets of paper. So whatever 2 pieces of paper you're going to use, I'm going to use a paper bag and my texture paper. And we're going to decide which is going to be our background. The background of our artwork is the back, what everything else sits on top of. So in this example, the background of my artwork is the yellow construction paper. It is in the back behind the main focus of what I'm doing. In this example, the background is the white paper. In this example, the background is the paper bag. So decide what's going to be your background. Ideally for this project, we want our background to have lots of plain open areas. So I'm going to choose my paper bag as my background. And I'm going to set it to the side for a moment because we don't need it just yet. This is what I'm going to be making my cactus petals from. All right, I'm going to flip my paper over. Please do the same. And grab your pencil because we're going to work on the back of our paper for just a moment. We're going to look at those cactus one more time, and we're going to draw the shapes that we see. We're going to start by drawing some of the larger shapes that we see, and then we're going to add some that are smaller. All right, so I'm going to draw kind of this large, round, this kind of ovally shape that I see on some of these cactus. We're going to draw a lot of shapes. We may not use them all, that's fine, but let's draw them. So you put one, a circle that is kind of smushed like an oval, or it could be a perfect circle. All right, let's draw some of these longer ovals. Remember, we're drawing big right now. There's an oval. I'm going to draw 2 of those. All right, we have some pretty large shapes, so we're going to make the next shapes a little smaller. I'm going to keep drawing an oval, but I'm going to make these a little smaller than my first ones. I'm going to make 3 of those. Now let's go even smaller. We're not going tiny, we're just getting smaller. All right, so we have large, medium, small. How about smaller, smallest? Add a couple of just circles to your paper. All right, so we have about 12-ish shapes on our paper. Next, we're going to take our scissors. We're going to start cutting our shapes out. Just a reminder, you can lay your scissors in the palm of your hand. Notice there's the larger side and the smaller side. This larger side, we're going to take our first 2 fingers and put inside there. And on the smaller side, it's just perfect for our thumb. And this helps us to open and close our scissors with a lot of control. All right, please watch as I demonstrate a cutting technique. This is a reminder, I know we've talked about this before. Remember when we're cutting that we keep our scissors straight and we move our paper as we need to. This gives us the most control over what we're cutting. Here's what I mean by that. I'm going to open my scissors, put my paper in between, and then I'm going to start to close them. And when I get to my line that I drew, I'm going to stop. And I'm just going to turn my paper so that my scissors now can close just on top of that line that I made. And then I'm going to turn my paper as my line curves. I'm opening my scissors and closing them and turning my paper. Open, turn while I close, open, turn while I close. What I'm not doing is I'm not turning my scissors this way. I don't have as much control when I do that. When I keep my scissors straight, I have more control over them. And it makes us have a neater cutting experience. And it doesn't hurt our hand, right? All right, watch me do one more. Sometimes when I'm cutting and I have these extra pieces, I'll just cut them off to the side so they're out of my way. All right, so this one's going to curve even more quickly. Has these long straightaways and then, oh, it curves pretty fast. So I just curve and cut at the same speed till I get around my shape. Open and close. You guys got the idea. These little guys, don't sweat it, just do your best, okay? They don't have to be perfect. All right, go ahead, you start cutting your shapes out, and then we'll come back together again and talk about how we're going to arrange them on our paper. All right, how'd you do? That was kind of a lot of cutting. Did your hands get tired? I hope not. I hope you had fun cutting. But if you did get a little tired, no worries. No worries at all. All right, so flip your colors over so you can get a good look at them. And grab that background sheet of paper. We're going to start composing our artwork, just like we did on Dot Day when we were talking about composing our circles. Grab your pencil again, and I want you to think about how you want to put the pot or the container for your cactus on your picture. Let me show you a couple of ways that I've done it just to give you ideas. On this one, I just drew it on with my crayon. I started with a square, and then I curved these lines in to give it a little different shape. This one, I drew a rectangle, I actually drew it on a paper bag and then cut it out and glued it onto here. So that would be another option. If you don't want to just draw it, you could cut it out, maybe grab a third sheet of paper, plain paper, whatever you have, and you could cut a shape out. For this one, maybe some of my second graders want to try this. I drew a rectangle, but I stood it up tall, and then I cut a shape into my rectangle. That could be kind of fun, something a little different. So it's your choice how you want to do your pot, your container. I'm going to draw mine today. If you would like to draw a rectangle, you can draw along with me. If you're going to do something different, you can go ahead and do whatever you would choose. But if you'd like to draw along with me, I'm going to start with my pencil. I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to keep it towards the bottom of my paper. So maybe place your hand on the bottom so you have plenty of space up here for your cactus. And then draw a straight line. I'm drawing a horizontal line side to side on my paper. I'm going to decide how big I want it. Do I want it to be super thin? I would stop here. If I want it to be more thick, I'll come down to here. And I'll draw another line, just a horizontal line going side to side on my paper. And now I'm going to connect those two sides to make my rectangle. Nice. All right, now you get to choose what color you're going to color it in. Unless you're cutting something from another sheet of paper, you're going to want to add color to this. I like to look at the colors I already have chosen and choose some of those. So I think this really bright blue color stands out to me, and maybe either the yellow or the purple. Let's see. Because this bag is darker, it's going to show up a lot darker on my paper. Here's the bright blue, and here's, I don't think that's the same yellow, but it's like that yellow. All right, so I'm going to take my dark color. I'm going to just go back over my lines again so that it really stands out. And then you could add some pattern to your container if you wanted to. I could add, I think I might add some stripes to mine. Maybe a little bit of texture of some kind. I made diagonal stripes. You could add any kind of texture or line that you want to. You could even take this over and rub texture on it. Let's see, I'm going to color this in yellow in between here. Just decorating for a moment. If you decided to cut your container out from another sheet of paper, go ahead and glue it on. I'm going to add another yellow stripe in the middle here. All right, done. All right, so next is, I think this is a really fun part. I'm going to start taking some of my shapes and I'm just going to start placing them. I'm not gluing yet. I'm just placing them on my container, thinking about how I might want to build a cactus. Did you ever think you could build your own cactus? So let's see, maybe I want to use something big. It's like I have two different cactus in this pot. And then I could add a few of these little guys over here. That's kind of interesting to me. Maybe a flower. You can compose something on yours too. If you're not happy with this, then take some things off and maybe say, okay, maybe I want to do two tall ones together, and how would those fit together? And you could totally build it that way. You don't have to use all your pieces. You can choose which ones you want to use. I'm going to keep mine something like this, I think. And now it's time to start gluing. So once you've decided on your arrangement, grab your glue. You can use the wash or the liquid glue if you want. This project, the glue stick works a little better so that you don't end up with extra glue on it, because we're going to have one more step after this. So we're going to glue, and if you need to pause the video to glue, that's fine, but then come back and start the video again, because there's one more step after we glue. Let me remind you really quick that you always put your glue around the outside edge of whatever you're gluing. I know it's very tempting to put a dot in the middle and think you're done, but that just glues the middle down. What we really need are these outside edges to lay nice and flat. So I'm going to put the glue around my outside edges, and I started with my biggest piece first, and I'm building my cactus up. I'm letting them overlap so that it gives the impression that these pieces are growing out from one another. Notice not all my circles are cut just perfectly. I think that's fine. It adds some interest. Okay, I'm going to go around the outside edge again. And now it's your turn. If you're ready to glue, go ahead and start gluing yours down. I'm going to finish here, and if you need to pause the video, you can. And then don't forget to meet me back here because we have one final step to do. All right, so we have everything glued down. Here's something I like to do, but first check and make sure that wherever you are, your table can be wiped off. So take a look, think, can I wipe this off? I keep a mat under mine in case I make a mess, so I can just easily discard the mat if it gets messy. But if your table is somewhere where you can do this, where it can be washed, I want you to flip your paper over and give it a little massage on the back. This is just helping all the little edges of your paper glue down and stick to your paper really nicely. It spreads the glue out a little more, adds a little pressure so that it doesn't start to pop off or come off. And sometimes with these glue sticks, if you don't add a little pressure, have you ever had where your paper starts to peel off after it dries? That's such a bummer. So that'll just help prevent that from happening. All right, so now we have it glued nice and flat on our paper. We're gonna add the little spines or the pokies that come off the edge of our cactus. And I used green on these two. Depending on the color of your background, white could work as well. They actually kind of look white in real life to me. You're the artist, you get to choose. I think I'm going to try white. Let's see how it shows up. Mr. White Crayon doesn't get used very much. We need to give him an excuse to come out of the box. So we'll try it. I think it'll show up on the paper bag well. And then just remember back to the cactus and how it has these little pokies. Oh yeah, that shows up really well. That stick out on the sides. And sometimes they come in little pairs or little groups. This is a trio. It's 3. Other times, it's just all the way around the edges. And you know, as the artist and the builder of the cactus, you get to choose how they're going to come off of your cactus. We want to add this last little nod to texture, to how it would feel, so that the viewer knows this is pokey. This is a cactus. Maybe these little guys will have a tiny bit on them too. And there we go, we're done. I haven't said a whole lot about signing your artwork, but this is kind of a fun thing to do, especially if you're in the home and there's other artists in your home. You want to make sure you know which one's yours. So you could sign your name at the bottom. And there we have it. I hope you had fun making your Katie Vernon inspired cactus, and I look forward to seeing you next week.